Well, the snow and ice is finally starting to retreat from a number of our ponds and lakes across the province, and that means it's time to break out the fishing rods and get out to some of these wonderful resources that we have to introduce kids or first-time anglers, or even folks like myself. I love to get along these lakes and do a little fly casting and see what I can manage to bring to shore. And of course, the fish that we're looking for are all stocked. At least a majority of them are in these ponds. And the Alberta Conservation Association spends a great deal of resources in ensuring that all Albertans have an opportunity to fish these areas. Real pleasure for me to introduce biologist Kevin Fitzsimmons with the ACA. Kevin, I guess this is the time of season where many of these lakes are being stocked.
Yeah, it sure is, and it's a pleasure to speak with you again, Michael. But yeah, this is the time when many of our lakes are being stocked. Our water bodies we stock are largely for put and take opportunities, so there isn't a wealth of overwintering, and they rely on that yearly stocking to replenish the resource for the anglers to take advantage of, like you indicated. And as you also indicated, many of them are really well suited for first-time anglers, for families, often in municipal settings with easy access, so they're quite amenable for people to take advantage of, and especially early in the season.
Yeah, just before we leave the topic of winter, in a number of your lakes, aeration plays a very important role in keeping fish stock alive. When you get into this time of year, are those aeration systems turned off prior to stocking, or do you keep them running in some instances year round?
Yeah, good question. We rely on aeration systems in a number of lakes, like you indicated, and we use two systems. One is a surface aerator, which is the pump, the fountain that people may have seen on a water body. We also use a bubble diffuser, which is not terribly different from an aquarium diffuser. It's just an overgrown aquarium diffuser. For the lakes that have the surface aerators, those aerators are turned off well before stocking, so there's no risk of fish being harmed by the aerators or being entrained into them. Water bodies that have the bubble diffusers, they are typically turned on as soon as we turn the surface aerators off, and it's quite a passive system for the fish, so there's no harm in that. But the end goal in those water bodies is to enhance the year-round survival, or at least the summer survival of those fish. But yeah.
And in terms of monitoring I guess the health of some of these ponds, is that something that the ACA does on a fairly frequent basis?
We've monitored water quality in all of our ponds prior to stocking. The water temperature, the water pH, some various parameters are tested to make sure it's suitable for accepting the fish, so that we don't have we're not putting fish into a water body that's not going to have immediate survival. Occasionally, we will also investigate water bodies if there is reports of poor water quality or reports of a potential fish kill. We'll investigate that. And from time to time, we do update the routine water quality, just as like a physical checkup on the water body from time to time. So we have a sort of a regular return where we assess the water bodies, but we also do have some emergency or immediate responses we can take if something doesn't seem quite right. So we are quite active in monitoring the water quality in our ponds.
And as you look ahead to this year's schedule, Kevin, roughly how many lakes are going to be stocked, and I guess the frequency of the stocking as well?
Yeah, we're going to be stocking 64 water bodies this year. That's what's on the books. And all of them will have a spring stocking, a late spring stocking. Ice has been a little more persistent this year than other years. It's just not wanting to leave, and spring is not really trying that hard. But we anticipate that we'll have all the water bodies stocked towards the end of April. We're going to be starting. In fact, it started last week and into early May. We will have all the water bodies stocked before the May long weekend for that big pulse of fishing. Many of our water bodies do have a second stocking in the late summer and into the early fall. And those are water bodies that we're hoping can provide some late season opportunities. So all of them have at least one stocking. Some have two, some have three, just depending on where they are, how often they're fished, what kind of angling pressure they get.
And in terms of numbers, what could we be looking at a total fish number?
Total fish this year is going to be just over 110, almost 111,000 trout, and that's a mixture of rainbow trout, brook trout, brown trout, and tiger trout in some of our ponds. That we're also going to be stocking some larger fish in some of our ponds this year. Typically, our fish are about 20 centimeters, which is a very catchable size of fish. But we are going to stock some 30-centimeter fish, and those are going to go into the Kids Can Catch ponds immediately before the Kids Can Catch events. So we're trying to get young anglers some fish on the line and try and get some bigger ones for them.
You mentioned earlier about the fact that a lot of these ponds are within, if not within the boundaries of municipal areas, like Edmonton, Calgary, that type of thing, or very close to these larger areas. And do you have a sense of just how popular they are, Kevin, and the use that goes into them? And I guess through that, does that mean the frequency of fish stocking might increase in a certain area or decrease in another if you're not getting the use out of the lakes?
Exactly. We do monitor the use of our water bodies, the use of the fishery. We use that. We count the number of anglers on our water bodies. All of our ponds have had one, if not several, angler counts done on them seasonally, and that's we use a trail camera to accomplish that. And we just count the number of anglers in the pictures as we collect the cards. We can also estimate angler use, angler effort on our water bodies from those cameras. And at some of our water bodies, it is extremely high. It is on the order of 3, 4, 5,000 hours per hectare. To put that in perspective, 3 or 4,000 hours per hectare on a pond such as like Hermitage Pond in Edmonton or the Camrose Pleasure Island Pond. That means every time you go out there, you're almost jockeying for a position on the shore with another angler or two, and you're almost getting in each other's way to fish. So it's a busy water body, and those water bodies that are busy and are very frequently used by anglers, they're rewarded with more stocking, so more fish, more frequent stockings, compared to perhaps a more rural pond or that's further out of the way of an urban center that might get significantly less use. We still stock those, but they're not getting as many fish because they're not getting as many anglers visiting them, and the recycling of the fish is less.
And I guess finally, Kevin, if folks are interested in knowing the nearest pond, lake that is stocked to where they live, how do they go about getting that information?
Yeah, anglers can look at our Alberta Conservation Association website, and we do have a link in there to our stock ponds, which is updated frequently at this time of year, indicating the location, the number of fish, and when it was stocked, as well as links to our Discover Guide, which gives you detailed site information about our fish stocking sites, as well as the rest of our sites. So our Alberta Conservation website is probably your first stop to see what's been stocked, what's frequently stocked, and what's currently been stocked.
Outstanding, Kevin. Thanks so much for the information, and we will continue to keep tabs on stocking information as it comes out. Thanks again for your time, and we'll catch up with you again soon.
Yeah, thanks for the opportunity, and we'll hopefully bump into you at a local pond.